Let's discuss what's going on with the economist Natasha Sarin. She's a professor at the Yale Law School and a former Treasury official during the Biden administration. Natasha, thanks very much for joining us. Can you break down what this really means, the CPI numbers, the Consumer Price Index numbers that came in this morning?
Yeah, so I think the way you can kind of interpret these numbers is they're relatively good news. Inflation came down a tick cooler than expectations, but it is still quite high. Year over year, we're talking about a 2.8% increase in prices. So that's significant, and it's significantly away from where the Federal Reserve would like to be, which is closer to a 2% inflation target. And importantly, what this data doesn't have within it is the impact of Trump's escalation of these trade wars and these tariff policies, which are certainly going to be incredibly inflationary for the American people.
Because a lot of people are really worried about this trade war that President Trump has launched against close allies, including Canada and Mexico, for that matter. At the end of the month, the European Union is set to impose counter tariffs against the United States, $28 billion worth of U.S. goods. What's going to be the impact of that?
So, in reality, what tariffs mean are they mean a tax increase for the American people. That's like plain and simple. And work that I've done at the Budget Lab at Yale with some of my colleagues suggests that the result of these Canada, Mexico, and China tariffs that the administration has already proposed is going to be an increase of around $1,600 in prices for the average American family each year. So this is a significant price increase, and it's a significant uptick in inflation at a moment where we haven't already gotten to the last mile with the last inflation that we saw around the pandemic.
Because President Trump keeps saying he wants to reduce taxes for the American people. What you're effectively saying is that these tariffs are going to raise taxes for the American people.
Absolutely. It's kind of the exact opposite. He's saying he wants a pro-growth agenda and an agenda that's focused on allowing businesses to invest in America and cutting taxes for the American people. The reality of this trade war and these tariff policies is that they're doing the reverse. They're causing taxes to increase, and they're creating a ton of uncertainty for businesses looking to invest in this country.
Let me get your reaction, Natasha, to what the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick just said on Fox Business. Listen to this.
Nothing's going to stop that until we've got a big, strong, domestic steel and aluminum capability. And by the way, he's going to add copper to that mix, too. So just remember, national security rises above all other things. People get lost in this stuff. We must have steel and aluminum. We must have semiconductors. We need to have cars and automobiles. We need to make these things in America.
What do you think?
So listen, if we were having a conversation about tariffs in particular sectors against particular countries, acknowledging the China threat is very real, I would be happy to have that conversation, and I think many economists would as well. The reality is the idea of broad-based tariffs, 25% tariffs on Canada, our ally, in the name of fentanyl, like, it is hard to square with that kind of national security rationale.
A very tiny percentage of the fentanyl comes in from Canada.
Less than 1%, right? So it's clearly not about that. And so it's hard in some sense to understand. When I teach my students, I teach finance, and then we talk a lot about like what rationale for policy might be and what the administration might be trying to accomplish here. It's frankly hard for me to understand what the objectives are, but it's very clear what the reality is going to be. It's going to be higher prices for the American people and a less secure world with the Americans so isolated relative to our foreign counterparts.
Natasha, thanks very much. Natasha Sarin of Yale Law School, right?
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we'll have you back. Thank you very, very much.